Hey, hello, good morning. It's Friday, July 26th. My name is Rob, and I am that developer dad. And yesterday afternoon, I had a heck of a time getting my software to build and run the what test suites I have automatically inside of GitHub. And I finally tracked it down to the silliest of problems. Because I'm working primarily in Windows, and I'm used to Windows and I'm used to Mac, and both of those file systems are not case sensitive when it comes to folder and file names, but Linux is. And the build and test runs on Linux all require the letter casing on project references to match the file system paths exactly. And I had some mismatches between what was in the solution file and the project files and how those were expressed in the file system. And that's where all those darn errors were coming from. So I got that fixed. And I've got a Safari window open around here somewhere. We can actually see that it's actually functioning now. So let's see if I can actually trigger it. And will it run itself? Can I come in here? No, I guess I can't. Not manually anyway. So that's fine. We'll get to watch it work when I next push a change. But the bottom line is, if we go in here, we can look at what's happening. Oh, here's the rerun all jobs. Lol. Let's pop out to build, and we can run it. Yep, that's fine. Rerun all jobs. And let's just pop in here, and we can watch the logs happen as they go. And we're off. We're restoring all of our dependencies. Watch it fail on me. That'd be typical. But the dotNet restore worked. dotNet build is going. We've got some compiler warnings, 10 of them to be precise. Our test is running. They all passed. And our build has succeeded. So hooray for that. Let's go back out to summary. And we'll come out to our projects. Pop down here. I've got automation around testing and building. And that is done. Come on, update, you silly thing. There we go, it just turned purple. All right. So, something else I wanted to do, and it'd be nice if I could get it built into GitHub, but figuring it out and scripting it all out and languages and operating system stuff that I'm not super duper familiar with was going to be way, way, way more than I wanted to take on just to get the results I'm after. And what I want to do is have a quick and easy way to get some statistics around my code coverage and stuff like that, and maybe get some code analysis going in the process. I'm not yet to linting the code. We'll get there, but I did at least want to have a semi-automatic way of running my test reports. So I did some more digging last night and yesterday afternoon, and I found that there are some things I can do when I run dotNet test that create some reports in an XML format. And That's not super duper. I mean, it's super useful, but I don't want to wade through all of this stuff and try to interpret it in an XML format. That's not something I'm interested in doing on a day-to-day basis. So I did some more digging, and I found this report generator dotNet tool and installed that, and it generates reports that look more like this. And I just added coverage history this morning, and we're able to see how many lines are covered, how many lines are uncovered, how many are coverable on a lines of code basis from an assembly to assembly basis. And it only sees the assemblies that are actually touched during or referenced by projects that are being tested. So we don't have 100% listing of the assemblies yet, but we're going to improve that. But we can go assembly by assembly and see what percentage of the code in those projects is under test. And I'm not one of those maniacs that wants to see, every project must have at least 80% coverage or whatever, because that's frequently not terribly practical. When we've got projects that deal exclusively with wrapping external resources like APIs, databases, file systems, message buses, stuff like that, it's incredibly difficult to mock or fake out those resources in every case. And it's also frequently not terribly worth the effort. You run into the problem of I can't even remember the term, but it's where as you get to a point, the benefits from doing more get less and less and less. Diminishing returns, that's the term. So some things like database accessors, message bus wrappers, stuff like that for unit tests, not worth it. As we get into adding integration tests and things like that, we'll start covering some of those codes, but we're not to integration test point yet. Today, what I want to do is I want to start getting a little bit more test activity or execution activity across some of these zeros. And we've got some things going into rule set definitions just by executing other tests, but we don't actually have any explicit tests against rule set definitions. Same deal with the townsfolk manager. We've got a little itty bitty bit, but not a whole lot. And the framework class that we have that's all like static methods and so on and so forth, that'll get exercised as we go further out the stack. But rather than starting a brand new test project this morning, what I want to do is first I'll talk through this. It's a Windows batch file that I wrote that automates cleaning out the test reports directory from the last time it ran. I switched to the source folder for the application code. I run the dotNet test command line, and then I run that report generator utility, and that dumps all of those files out to this test reports folder, and it sets up our history and all that stuff. So I haven't set this up on a Windows schedule yet, but because it's just a Windows batch file, I could quite easily set up a daily schedule to run this every day at like 6 o'clock. And then I can check it when I come in or when I log in the morning or whatever. And that'll do for now. Good enough. And when we're doing MVP stuff, good enough matters. We don't need it to be perfect. But for things like test coverage and proving that our software works and everything like that, good enough is pretty good. Now, These are good. Those are all ignored. I don't need to check that stuff in with the source control. Let's come in and finish up the NPC options feature because I've got one ignored. I can unignore this. And I'm still thinking about this particular unhappy path. I think if rule set access is not configured, like it can't get to the character options or nothing comes back, then I'm actually going to delete this step, or actually I'm going to change it to then oh gosh, I guess it should be a Grandpa, hey, what's up? I'm cooking code this morning. And yes, I actually do have grandchildren. So if that was a troll attempt, I am not concerned. All right, then an invalid operation exception should be thrown. And let's generate this step. So I'm going to define that, copy it to the clipboard. We can hide this, pop in here, and rule set is properly configured. We're going to tidy that up in just a few minutes. And let's do that. And I believe I can 86 this. For now, I'm going to comment it, save, and pop over to here. Then an invalid operation exception should be thrown. And I believe there's a way for me to exception properties help link HR blah 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 blah. I don't want to do that. String message, no. Let's pop out of here, and I'm gonna have to do the Google. I don't remember how to test for exceptions. Apple N, I can get rid of that Safari window, goodbye. And XUnit exception attribute. And I believe it's expected exception, but let's make sure. Use assert throws on code where expected. All right. So that means I need to alter my step a little bit. And that's okay. Let's save that. We're going to end up deleting this. And then get NPC options throws an invalid operation exception. And we'll save, define that step, copy it, come over here, delete this. And let's see here. Gah. Okay, given rule set access is not properly configured. Oh, these attributes, the given, then, given, all that stuff, those come out of the BDD testing framework that I'm using. The big kid on the block used to be, excuse me, SpecFlow for Gherkin / Cucumber / behavior-driven development testing. And they no longer support anything past dotNet 6. So the other day I found Wreck and Roll, which is actually a fork of the SpecFlow code base that does support dotNet 8. And when I create my feature files over here, I can right-click, generate, and it actually creates all of this syntax for me. So back to where I was over here, I need to highlight this and say assert.throw throws, and I got to spell it right, and invalid operation exception. And it's just going to be an anonymous function, npc options dot. Is that what I want? No, I want test class. Yeah, I want test class. Come on, Rob. Head is in butt. Get NPC options. And I got to terminate my line. I was not in the C world before .NET. I was in the guy in a band world before .NET. I taught myself some basic HTML and CSS, and I was doing phone support for a company back in Buffalo. And their internal knowledge base and intranet was in a terrible state. This is back in 2001. So I rewrote it, and the VP of product development saw what I did and dropped a bunch of VB6 books on my desk and said, here, learn this. We're going to make you into a programmer. And I was like, cool. So I dealt with VB6 for a few years, and then migrated to VB.net, lived there for 7 or 8 years, and then around about 2011, I moved over to C#. And I haven't looked back since. I think I could still code VB.net, but it would be under duress. All right, so we've got that. I'm going to build the solution. And then we have to improperly configure our rule set access as soon as that's done. I just want to make sure our purple line over here turns to white. Good. And I have resolved that thing I don't like. So now we have to make NPC options throw an exception. And there's a typo. And because I changed that text, I also have to change this text. Otherwise, it won't be able to find that C# method. These BDD frameworks do a lot of stuff with reflection behind the scenes. to figure out which method is assigned to which testing clause. All right, we've got that. We've got all this. Yeah. And I'm going to take a look at this given. So up here, I'm doing a lot of really cheesy crap. And what I'm going to need to do is these guys are going to become module level. I'm going to cut those right now. We're going to run up top, paste them in here, turn them into privates. Private mock shuffler. What are you complaining about? Oh, duh. Card deck. If I could pull my head out of my butt, it would be a wonderful, wonderful thing. Dot object. Dice bag. Dot object. All right. And I'm going to rename that. Give it an underscore because it's class level. Rename that and give it an underscore because it's class level. Save that. I know we've got some errors down here. I can get rid of these object calls because we're actually dealing with the let's pretend instances. I believe there is another one down here. I can get rid of those. See you later. And let's delete. And we'll delete some more. And replace those with the underscores. Save those. Now, do I have any more anger code? I do not. Okay, next thing I gotta do is take this and we gotta factor it out into a new method. And we're definitely gonna extract a method, and it is going to be create mock rule set access. All right. And we've got the private static mock, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to add a nullable int called templates to add. And we're going to put this in here. But we got to do it with a twist. Dot get value or default. copy that, paste it, and paste it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move mock rule set up top. Because we're going to need that no matter what, right? And in here, I'm going to tighten these guys up a little bit. And all we're going to do, if templates to add is not null, then we'll set up our mock rule sets and add them into that rule set. Else, mock rule set dot setup x dot species rules dot returns null. What do you mean that's ambiguous? That's silly. That's very silly. Returns. Tmock to result. Species rules is supposed to return a species data. Let's go to the definition for iCharacter creation rules. Okay, so these are not expected to return nulls. But I know what I'll do. We're going to move that up to the top because that's what we're configuring. That's what we actually want to configure. Okay. And we're not actually going to do anything to the rule set access, or the rule set. I'm going to move this up in here. And then mock rule set access dot setup and x dot load character creation rules. We're not going to return the mock rule set object. We're going to throw an exception. Throws new invalid operation exception rule set has not been initialized. Boop. Save that. And let's come over to the feature. Save everything. Build the solution. Make sure that turns white again. Okay, given rule set access is properly configured, I'm going to feed that a value, and I'm going to say 3. Save. And let's build. Builderoo. And it says our build succeeded, everything turned white. Let's run our tests. So let's do that. And let's just run them all. Just cuz. All right, so the dice engine, many tests passed. All of my townsfolk manager tests that exist have passed. And it looks like I did not remove the ignore tag on this. So let's try these again. Oh, bite me. Build, rebuild. Do the things. Come on, don't be a pain. All right, let's just rerun everything. Okay, that one failed. Let's see what happened. One or more step definitions are not implemented. Oh, because I haven't actually set that up. Ah. So to get this going, I need to, first off, I want to move that guy down to the bottom. Oh, I'll explain what GM Tools is as soon as I'm done implementing this test. Ack! Stop that. Cut that, bring it down the bottom, all the way down here. And GM Tools stands for Game Master Tools. I run a homebrewed D&D game, and very often my players in the course of their adventures will encounter just sort of like non-player characters like shopkeepers and blacksmiths and other adventurers and so on and so forth. And they're always full of questions. Like, hey, what's his name? What does he look like? Does he have any kids? Blah, blah, blah. All of that stuff. And I'm really bad at ad-libbing that stuff on the fly. So I decided I would write an application that helps me get those questions answered. And where the heck am I? I'm right here. Here is the code that I need for up here. And I'm going to pass null. Then I'm going to save everything. I'm going to save it again, and I'm going to build, not debug, the build, just the test project, because I'm not messing with anything else. Rule set access is not configured. That's okay. That isn't supposed to pass yet because I haven't rerun it. Oh, you're a pain in the neck. You know that? That's so very silly. And it's still vomiting on me. But we got system.invalid operation exception. Rule set has not been initialized. Good. That's what I wanted. That's exactly what I wanted to happen. So let's drop a breakpoint here and debug this test. Oh, for crying out loud. Build the damn solution. So this wreck and roll extension, it's fairly new, and I think it's a little buggy. And occasionally it gets Visual Studio into a pretty confused state. And yeah, that screen that you see right there in the share in the background, that's actually hosting a small language model locally on my development laptop. It's kind of cool. All right, project's still loaded and ready to use. I know. Come on. No, it's not doing any code completion for me. This is it's for part of the use case that I'm automating. I'm actually just using the IntelliSense that's built into Visual Studio right now. I had a extension that's like a free version of GitHub Copilot called Codium, and I found that it was getting in the way more than it was actually helping me. Okay, so this is exploding in my constructor, which is not necessarily what I want to happen. And that actually points out a silly thing that I'm doing here. I'm actually violating my dependency injection. So cool. I actually need to, instead of holding the NPC rules up here, I need to change this. Private, read only, I rule set access, rules access. I want to get rid of this. And I don't normally go to these lengths to do this much testing, but when I do, I never regret it. Equals the rule set that gets passed in. What are you complaining about? What's this complaint code here about? Oh, it's still trying to run my tests. Stop. Golly. Okay, rules access, rule set. And then we got to come down here. And anywhere it's looking for NPC rules, I need, in that method, to fetch a var character rules equals rules access dot load character creation rules. Great. And Character rules is going to replace that that stuff can all go away. Well, no. These attributes can all go away. I haven't implemented those other attributes yet. And I'm going to paste. And I got to paste. And I've got some more errors kicking around up in here. And I have to address those here. And yes, I know character rules doesn't exist. Not yet. But I want to take out all of the references to the old NPC rules member level variable. And I think rather than doing what I'm doing up here in the raw generate, I am going to create a private, what's the type on this? Character creation rules, character creation rules, character rules, get and we're going to return rules access dot load character creation rules. Save that. Delete this. Change the case on this. Save my file. Watch all of my errors disappear. And then rename it back so that it's Pascal cased. Save. Here we go. Let's go back to our test runner. Actually, I better rebuild the whole shebang. I'm going to pull these tests back up here. And the build has succeeded. Let's just try running those ones. We've got 3 pass, 0 fails. And that's a beautiful thing. It is throwing the exception as expected. And I want to rerun all of my tests right now. And all many thousands of my tests have succeeded, which is great. I didn't write all 1,500 tests in the DICE engine, by the way. I created a test case generator and created parameterized unit tests so that I could test every combination or many combinations of different kinds of dice, different numbers of dice, different modifiers to the result, different ways of rolling the dice, etc., etc., etc. And I created I used nested for loops to create thousands of permutations of the different scenarios so that I could test them all. Okay, our tests are passing. I am going to commit these changes. under completes the implementation of the scenario tests for GetNpcOptions in the Townsfolk Manager. And I believe I've got some GitHub issues for this. Here we go. Define contract tests for the intermediate components in our system. This contributes to but doesn't close number 50. You gonna show me the issue? No? All right, you suck. All right. Now, because I've got my GitHub automation, not just connected to pushes and pull requests into main, but also pushes into feature branches, I'm going to go ahead and sync my code up to the server. And let's see if my GitHub actions are running for us. Oh, and it sure does look like it. And it broke. Ha! Restore dependencies. Not found. Oh, right. Because of that damn casing. I bet if I look at my code branches out here in main, yeah, I'm behind by one. All right, easily fixed. I bet this is the problem. Let's pop out to main. Pull down that change. Don't verify OneDrive. Go away. I don't want that. And I'll pop back out to my feature branch. Merge up from main. Merge into current. We'll change one file. Auto merge if there are no conflicts, and there are not. Come on, wakey wakey. Here we go. Merging a Git workflow. Change in from main. Related items changes. I don't have any of that stuff. Go away. Get lost. Up you go. Push. All right, and let's take a look at Git. Here we are, branches. Let's take a look at actions. Merge branch main. Let's look at build. And it barfed on me again because of that. Project file was not found. Source game tools.solution. Townsfolk manager.tests. Okay. And this is one of the reasons why I really dislike DevOps. Because goofy stuff happens. So let's see what's going on here. Let's take a look at my solution file. You gonna let me open it? Or are you gonna be a Git? Can I open the solution file? Are you gonna let me? Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to fight with letter casing again after after we wrap this up. Can I even open the solution folder from there without closing Visual Studio? Open with, choose another app, Notepad, okay. And it's looking for, come on, scroll down. You can do it. You can do it. Oh yeah, now I lose my connection to my remote PC. Jenkins. Here's the problem, right there. Tests needs a capital T. Save. Yep, reload. And we've got one change. And you don't see any of this stuff happen on Windows because Windows is not a case-sensitive file system. Windows doesn't care. I'd better rebuild my solution. But if things don't line up 100% perfectly, you're going to be in for a world of hurt when you try to do automated builds on a Linux environment. And so that means when you're renaming solutions, moving projects from folder to folder and everything like that, make absolutely certain all of the cases and all of your project references and solution list and everything like that exactly match what's on your file system. Because if I go out to Windows and rename that test folder to have a lowercase and then rename it back, Git doesn't pick that up as a change. Fixed path in the solution file to match the case of the path in the file and folder structure. Commit and push. And this will be my final attempt before I give up on getting this automation running again to go figure out what the heck is going on. But I know it runs. Oh, good, it's restoring our projects now. Looks like we got it this time. And we're building. So good. Hooray, we got compiler warnings. We're running our tests. And we had all of those things pass. Townsfolk manager, one test run 4. Doesn't seem to have tested everything. There's dice engines. There's that. All right. Either way, our build succeeded. I'm going to come back to Windows over here. Open this up, go into projects, DevDad, run my gen test report. It's doing its thing. And then I will wrap up by showing what this application actually does as soon as this is finished. So there's that stuff. I can come out here, reload, and I can see slightly improved test coverage. I went from 19 to 27. Oh, wait. 19 is branch, 27 is other. But it's gone up slightly. So this morning it was 27.9. Prior runs it was 27.6, just by implementing that one extra test. So I still have a lot of testing to write. But let's run the console client and demonstrate what this thing does. So no, let's just generate completely randomly. So it created a human, 178 centimeters tall, 72 kilograms. I will be adding metric to freedom measurement units at some point in the not too distant future. Wavy red hair. They were a retired potter who used to be a sage. Yes, let's generate an AI description for those character attributes. That's what the local language model is running for, is to give me all of that capability. And it's taken its sweet time this morning. I should probably reboot my Windows laptop at some point, just to give it a little snooze. All right. And it's going and going and going. Why is a potter mentoring potion makers? That's weird. Oh, well, there used to be a sage. Okay. Almost done. And it ran out of tokens on me from the looks of things. So, yeah, that's another defect that's been happening here and there. That at some point it just craps out and dies a horrible death and doesn't return anything, and I got to track down why. But I've been otherwise occupied. But most of the time, no, stop. Stop. Boop. Most of the time it gives me output. And we got to work on the reliability a little bit and figure out why it doesn't return stuff sometimes. And I want to do some iteration on the actual prompt template to get it to be a little less wordy and stop making stuff up when it goes off the rails. But yeah, it's looking okay. And so is our test stuff. The automation is at least in place. The automation seems to be working semi-reliably. Although, if something changes case and it breaks the ability for the build system to find the files, I have to go hunt for the missing capital letter, which I'm not in love with, but it's the nature of the beast. And so until this afternoon, what even am I doing? I've lost my little mind here. So until this afternoon, I need to go grab some food, drink some water, and probably some more coffee, and do a little bit of running around and I will catch you all again at 1 p.m., where we will either continue working up tests or we'll take a look at what's next. Until then, take care, everybody.